My name isn't important. What matters is that I used to have a sister. Her name was Emily. If you had met her even once, you wouldn't forget her. She was the kind of person who walked into a room and somehow made it warmer. Not because she was loud or dramatic, but because she noticed people. She remembered the small things, how you liked your coffee, which movie made you cry, that you hated thunderstorms. She made you feel like you mattered. She was 3 years younger than me, but most of the time it felt like I was the childish one and she was the calm, patient adult. When I panicked, she listened. When I overreacted, she laughed. When I forgot to eat, she showed up with takeout at my door, rolling her eyes like she was tired of saving me, but she always did. We weren't perfect siblings. We fought about stupid things, clothes, dishes, who borrowed whose charger and never returned it. But underneath every argument was a simple truth. She was my person, and I was hers. We grew up in a small town, then moved to the city in our 20s. Different apartments, different jobs, different lives, same late-night calls. Sometimes we talked for an hour, sometimes for 3 minutes just to say, "I'm alive, don't worry." I never imagined one of those calls would be the last. It was a Thursday evening. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. I was at home, staring at a half-finished work email when my phone lit up with her name. Emily. I smiled before I even picked up. "You do realize normal people text, right?" "Hello to you too," she replied. Her voice sounded tired, but she forced a little laugh. "Are you busy?" "Always," I said, "but I can fake productivity later. What's up?" There was a pause, just a second longer than usual, but I noticed it. "I just wanted to talk," she said. "Is that allowed?" I leaned back in my chair. "It's in your contract as my sister. Unlimited calls, terrible jokes, occasional emotional breakdowns. Lifetime warranty." She laughed, really laughed this time, and for a moment everything felt normal. We talked about small things first. Her day at work, my annoying coworker, the weather. The usual filler topics we used so we didn't dive too fast into real feelings. But even while she talked, something felt off. Her sentences were shorter. She kept losing her train of thought. Once, I heard her inhale like she was about to say something important. Then she changed the subject instead. "Hey," I said softly after a while, "are you okay?" "Yeah," she answered too quickly. "I'm fine, just tired." "You sound more than tired." "Stop reading my mood like a therapist," she joked. "You're going to start charging me by the hour." "I might," I said. "Your emotional damage is expensive." We both laughed, but the laughter faded quicker than it used to. There was another pause. I heard a car pass in the background on her side. She wasn't at home. I pictured her sitting somewhere outside, maybe on a bench, maybe in her car, maybe walking down the street with her headphones in. "Where are you?" I asked. "Just out," she replied. "I needed air." "Emily." "What?" "Talk to me." A long silence this time, long enough for my chest to tighten. Finally she said, "Do you ever feel like your life is going in a direction you didn't choose, but you're stuck on the ride anyway?" "Sometimes," I said. "Why?" "Because I think that's what's happening to me." The room felt smaller. I sat up straight. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I don't know," she said quickly. "Forget it, I'm being dramatic." "You don't call me just to be dramatic." "That's my job. You call when something's wrong." She exhaled slowly. I could almost see her, sitting somewhere with her shoulders hunched, picking at her nails like she always did when she was anxious. "I've just made some bad choices," she murmured, "and I don't know how to fix them." "Bad choices like what? Work, money, people?" Another long pause. My heart pounded louder with each second. "People," she said finally. I felt a flicker of anger at whoever she meant. "Is someone bothering you?" "Not bothering," she replied. "More like complicating everything." "Emily, that's not an answer." "I know," she whispered. "I'm not ready to give you the real one yet." I stood up and started pacing the room. "Okay, then start with the half-real version, I'll take that." She was quiet again. I was about to push her harder when she spoke, and this time her voice was softer, lower, almost shaky. "If something happens to me," she said, "promise me you'll pick up my calls." I stopped walking. "That's a very weird thing to say," I told her. "What does that even mean?" "Just promise," she insisted. "Nothing is going to happen to you," I said. "You're being paranoid." "Maybe," she said. "But promise me anyway." I tried to laugh it off. Okay, fine. I promise to answer all your ghost calls from the afterlife. But I'm not paying long-distance charges beyond the grave. She didn't laugh this time, not really. I'm serious, she said. Swear it. A chill slid down my spine. There was something in her tone I couldn't ignore anymore, fear, hidden under sarcasm, wrapped in forced calm. I swear, I said quietly. If you call, I'll answer, always. Thank you, she whispered. Emily, what's going on? I asked. Did someone threaten you? Are you in trouble? She took a deep breath on the other end. I could tell she was fighting with herself, two sides of her arguing, one begging to tell the truth, the other terrified of the consequences. I will tell you, she said eventually. I promise. Just not tonight. Why not tonight? Because I'm still trying to decide what to do, she replied. And if I say it out loud, it becomes real, and I don't know if I'm ready for it to be real. You don't have to go through it alone, I said. Whatever it is, we deal with it together, like we always have. I know, she said. That's why I called. Her voice softened. I just needed to hear you. You always make things feel less scary. I sat back down, feeling helpless. Then don't hang up, just talk to me. We'll stay on the phone all night if we have to. She laughed quietly. You have work tomorrow. Work can wait, you can't. For a second, I thought she might really stay. That she would start talking, pouring everything out, names, details, all the things hiding behind the word people. But then I heard another sound in the background. A car door opening, footsteps. A distant voice I couldn't make out. I have to go, she said suddenly. What, why? I'm almost home, she lied. I could hear it. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? I promise tomorrow we'll talk properly. Emily, don't hang up yet. I love you, she cut in, ignoring my plea. You know that, right? Of course I know that, I said, my throat tightening. But you're starting to freak me out. She smiled. I could hear it in her voice. Don't be scared, I'm just thinking out loud. I'll be fine. Then stop saying things like if something happens to me, I said. It's creepy. Okay, she replied softly. No more creepy lines tonight. There was a tiny pause. Then in a voice I would replay in my head 1,000 times afterward, she said, I'll talk to you tomorrow, and remember, answer if I call. Before I could respond, she ended the call. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long moment, tempted to call her back. But I told myself not to be overprotective. She said she was fine. She said she was almost home. She said we'd talk tomorrow. People say you should listen to your instincts. Mine were screaming that something was wrong. And still, I put the phone down, convinced I was overreacting. I wish I hadn't, because there was no tomorrow for Emily. Early the next morning at 6:17 a.m., my phone rang again. I grabbed it in a daze, expecting a random notification. It was an unknown number. Hello, I mumbled. Is this Emily's sister? A male voice asked. Yes, I said slowly. Who's this? This is Officer Daniels, he replied. I'm calling about your sister. There's been an accident. The room tilted. My vision blurred. I gripped the edge of the table. What kind of accident? I asked, though some part of me already knew. A car crash, he said. We need you to come to the hospital to identify her. For a few glorious, painful seconds, my brain clung to one word, identify. That meant she might be alive, hurt but alive, breathing, waiting. Is she okay? I whispered. Is she conscious? There was a pause, a professional silence. I'm sorry, he said. She didn't survive. The world didn't explode. It didn't crumble all at once. It just slowed. Every sound became distant. Every color faded. All I could hear was my own heartbeat and her last words repeating in my mind. If something happens to me, promise you'll answer my calls. At that moment, I thought it was just a strange memory. A sad, ironic thing she'd said the night before she died. I didn't know yet how literal it would become, because Emily was gone. Her body was cold. Her heart had stopped. But her number would still appear on my phone. And soon, I would find myself keeping a promise I never thought could be real, answering calls from a sister who was already dead. Hospitals have a strange silence. Not the quiet kind, but the kind filled with unspoken grief. Even when people are talking, machines are beeping, doors are opening and closing, there's still a heaviness in the air, like the building itself knows what it contains. I arrived at the hospital less than an hour after the call. I don't remember the drive. I don't remember parking the car. I only remember walking through the automatic doors and feeling like I had stepped into someone else's life. A nurse asked my name. I said it. She nodded gently, the way people do when they already know what they're about to say will hurt you. "Please wait here," she said. I sat down on a plastic chair that felt colder than it should have been. My hands were shaking so badly I had to hold them together just to stop them from rattling. Around me, people moved back and forth, doctors, patients, families. Everyone had their own emergencies. Mine had already happened. After a few minutes, a doctor approached me with a man in a police uniform. I recognized the officer's voice immediately, Officer Daniels. We exchanged a quick acknowledgement, nothing more. There was no space for politeness. "I'm very sorry for your loss," the doctor said. He spoke slowly, carefully, like every word mattered more than usual. "Your sister was brought in early this morning after a car accident. The impact was severe." I stared at his mouth as he spoke, watching the words form, but my brain refused to absorb them. "I need to ask you to come with me," he continued. "We'll need you to identify her." That word again. Identify. A small, broken part of me clung to hope. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe it wasn't Emily. Maybe she had given someone else her car. Maybe she had survived and was in surgery, unconscious. Hope is cruel like that. It shows up even when it has no right to. We walked down a long hallway. Each step felt heavier than the last. I could hear my own breathing, sharp, uneven, wrong. My chest hurt, like someone was squeezing it from the inside. The doctor stopped in front of a closed door and turned to face me. "I want to prepare you," he said softly. "The injuries were extensive." I nodded, though I wasn't prepared for anything. Nothing prepares you for seeing someone you love reduced to a body. He opened the door. The room was too bright. Emily lay on a hospital bed, covered with a white sheet that reached up to her chest. Her face was visible. Too still. Too peaceful. She looked asleep. That's what broke me. Because if she had looked damaged, bruised, bloodied, unrecognizable, maybe my mind would have accepted it faster. But she looked like my sister. The same nose she hated. The same faint scar near her eyebrow from when we were kids. The same lips that used to smile at me even when I annoyed her on purpose. I stepped closer, my legs weak. "Emily," I whispered. She didn't answer. I touched her hand. It was cold, not cool, not chilled. Cold. I pulled my hand back as if I'd touched something dangerous. The doctor spoke quietly behind me. Time of death was approximately 2:40 a.m., 2:40 a.m., just a few hours after our call ended. "She was alone in the vehicle," he added. "No passengers, her car was found off the road." I nodded numbly. My ears rang. The room felt like it was tilting. "I loved her," I said suddenly, desperately, like I needed to say it out loud before she disappeared completely. "She was my little sister." The doctor placed a hand on my shoulder and gave it a slight squeeze, then stepped back to give me privacy. I leaned over the bed and brushed a strand of hair away from Emily's forehead, exactly the way I'd done since she was a child. "I told you I'd answer," I whispered. "I should have done more than that." My phone vibrated in my pocket. The sound felt impossibly loud in the silent room. I jumped, my heart slamming violently against my ribs. It was probably work. Or a family member I hadn't called yet. Or nothing important. But for half a second, just half a horrifying thought crossed my mind. What if it's her? I shook my head, angry at myself for even thinking that. Emily was dead. She was lying right in front of me. Phones don't ring from the dead. I took the phone out. No missed calls. No notifications. Nothing. I let out a shaky breath I didn't realize I was holding. After that, everything blurred together, calling our parents, hearing my mother scream, answering questions from the police, signing papers I barely read. Officer Daniels explained the official details later that morning. Emily's car had been found damaged after apparently leaving the road late at night. No signs of another vehicle, no witnesses. They believed it was an accident. "Was she speeding?" I asked. "Possibly," he replied. "We're still investigating." "Was she drinking?" "No indication of alcohol," he said. "Toxicology will confirm," but there were no signs. I thought of her voice the night before, tired, anxious, afraid. "Did she call anyone before it happened?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. No calls from her phone after midnight. That didn't make sense. She had called me around 9 p.m., then nothing, not even a text later. Emily texted when she got home. Always. Something felt wrong, but grief clouded everything, making it hard to tell instinct from denial. The funeral was held 3 days later. The church was full friends, coworkers, neighbors. Everyone spoke about Emily like she was a light that had gone out too soon. They talked about her kindness, her laughter, her future. No one talked about fear. No one talked about secrets. No one talked about the questions. I stood beside her coffin, listening to people say, "I'm sorry for your loss," over and over, until the words lost meaning and became just sound. I kept thinking of our last call, her pauses, her strange promise, her final words. Answer if I call. After the burial, I returned to my apartment alone. Her things were still there, pictures on my fridge, spare clothes in my closet, an old mug she'd left behind months ago. I collapsed onto my couch and stared at the ceiling, numb. That was when my phone rang. I didn't look at it right away. I almost let it go to voicemail. I was too tired, too empty, too broken to talk to anyone. But something made me reach for it, something cold, something instinctive. The screen lit up. Emily. For a moment, my brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. It felt like a glitch, a cruel mistake. Emily was dead. I had just buried her. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Caller ID, Emily. My breath caught painfully in my throat. "This isn't funny," I whispered to no one. I told myself it was impossible. Someone must have been calling from her phone accidentally. Maybe the police. Maybe the phone company. Maybe it was a system error. I pressed decline. Immediately, the screen went dark. My heart hammered violently. My ears rang. I stared at the phone like it had betrayed me. Then it rang again. Emily. The name filled the screen. Insistent, unapologetic, alive. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The phone stopped ringing. A few seconds later, a notification appeared. New voicemail. My stomach twisted into a knot of pure dread. Hands trembling, I pressed play. At first, there was nothing, just a faint crackle, static. Then I heard breathing. Slow, uneven, too close to the microphone. And underneath it, barely audible, a whisper. "Please don't ignore me." The voicemail ended. I dropped the phone onto the couch like it had burned me. Emily was gone. I had seen her body. I had watched her coffin lower into the ground. And yet she was calling me. And somehow, deep inside my bones, I knew this wasn't a glitch. This was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I turned off the lights, lay down, pulled the blanket over my head like I used to when I was a scared kid. But my mind wouldn't quiet. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw two images overlapping, refusing to separate. Emily's face in the hospital, still, pale, cold. And Emily's name glowing on my phone screen, alive, insistent, calling. Reality and impossibility, layered on top of each other. I kept telling myself there had to be a rational explanation. Maybe the police still had her phone and accidentally triggered a call. Maybe some glitch resent old voicemail data. Maybe someone spoofed her number somehow. But the voicemail, that didn't feel like an accident. Her breathing, her whisper. "Please don't ignore me." It didn't sound like a recording from before. There were no laughs, no jokes, no background noise I recognized. Just raw, desperate sound, like someone pleading from very far away or very close and trapped. At around 3 a.m., I sat up in bed and turned on the lamp. The room looked different now, smaller. Every shadow felt wrong. I picked up my phone again and pressed replay. I listened to the voicemail 5 times. The first time I cried. The second time I shook. The third time I listened carefully for any clue. The fourth time I tried to tell myself it wasn't her. The fifth time I stopped pretending. It wasn't just my grief making patterns in the noise. Someone had spoken. And that someone sounded like Emily. I knew her breathing. I knew the tiny catch in her voice when she was trying not to cry. I knew the way she stretched the word please. This wasn't in my head. It was in my phone. In my voicemail, in the call log. I went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at myself in the mirror. "You're not crazy," I whispered. "You're just grieving and confused, and maybe haunted by technology." but the reflection in the mirror didn't look convinced. By morning, my eyes were swollen, and my body felt like I'd been hit by something heavy. I made coffee with shaking hands and tried to think logically. Okay. Step 1, check the call log again. The record was there exactly as I remembered it. Yesterday, 7:42 p.m., Emily, 1 missed call. Yesterday, 7:44 p.m., Emily, 1 missed call. Yesterday, 7:45 p.m., voicemail from Emily. That was impossible for one very solid reason. At 7:42 p.m. yesterday, she had already been dead for hours. The officer said the time of death was around 2:40 a.m. The call came in the evening. Dead women don't place calls 16 hours later. I thought about deleting the voicemail just to make it all go away. If it disappeared from my phone, maybe it would disappear from my mind too. But the idea of erasing her voice felt like erasing another piece of her that I had left. So instead, I saved it. I knew what I had to do next, even though every part of me resisted it. I had to call back. The idea alone made my heart race. It felt wrong, like dialing into the dark. But if there was any chance this was real, whatever real even meant now, I couldn't ignore it. She had asked me not to. Please don't ignore me. My hand trembled as I opened the contact list and tapped her name. Emily. For a moment, my thumb hovered over the call button. I closed my eyes, inhaled, exhaled, and pressed. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. I held my breath with every ring, waiting for someone, anyone to answer. A stranger. A cop. A system message. A wrong number error. Instead, after the 4th ring, the line went dead. Straight to voicemail. Her old greeting played. Hey, it's Emily. You know what to do. Don't be weird. Just leave a message. My throat tightened. I couldn't speak. I hung up before the beep. For the rest of the day, I carried my phone like a lifeline. I didn't go to work. I didn't see anyone. I just walked from room to room, replaying memories and waiting for something that might not happen again. But that night, it did. It was almost midnight when my phone lit up once more. This time, I was awake, sitting on the couch. Lights off, TV off, no distractions. The screen glowed in the darkness like an accusation. Emily. I stared at it, frozen. Answer if I call, she had said. I swallowed, my throat dry. The ringing echoed louder than it should have. I don't know how long I waited. Maybe it was 3 seconds, maybe it was 20. But eventually, with a mixture of terror and love, I slid my finger across the screen and answered. Hello, I said, my voice barely a whisper. There was no immediate reply, just silence. Then the faint crackle of a connection. Emily, I tried again. Is someone there? I listened hard. At first, all I could hear was my own heartbeat in my ears. Then beneath the static, I heard it. Breathing, slow, uneven, just like in the voicemail. Not a recording, not a loop, live. Who is this? I asked, my voice shaking. This isn't funny. No answer. The breathing grew slightly faster, like the person on the other end was struggling to speak and failing. I stood up without meaning to, my hand gripping the phone so tightly it hurt. If this is some kind of sick joke, I swear. Then, finally, I heard it. Very soft, very faint, but clear enough that I couldn't pretend I'd imagined it. My name. Not hey, not hello, not a random sound, my name. Spoken the way only she said it, I froze. I whispered. Is that you? There was a tiny, broken sound, like she was trying to answer and couldn't quite form the words. I pressed the phone harder against my ear. Emily, where are you? I asked. Tell me where you are, I'll come. I don't care how insane this is, just talk to me. The breathing shifted, like she was moving, adjusting. Something scraped faintly on her end. Then I heard something that didn't fit. A distant echo of a car passing. The muffled thud of what might have been a door. And something that sounded like water. I strained to separate the sounds, but they blurred into noise. Please, I said, tears starting to fall. Please say more than my name. Tell me what happened. Tell me what you were afraid of. You said you'd talk tomorrow, remember? I'm here, I'm listening, just say it. There was a long pause. I thought the call might drop, that the connection would vanish and I'd be left screaming into a dead line. Then she spoke, one word, just one. Help! My knees nearly gave out. Help, I repeated. Help with what? Are you in pain? Are you trapped? Tell me where. The line crackled. Her breathing became more strained, like it hurt her to exist in this thin strip of audio. Then another word emerged, distorted by the poor signal but unmistakable. Me! Help me. I covered my mouth with my free hand, choking on a sob. I'm trying, I said. I don't know how, I don't know what to do. You're gone, Emily. They said you died. I saw you. I touched you. How are you calling me? No answer. Only the soft, labored breathing, like she was fighting against some invisible barrier. I'll go to the police, I said suddenly. I'll tell them something's wrong. I'll make them look deeper. If someone did something to you, if this wasn't an accident, I'll find out. Is that what you want? Is that why you're calling me? Silence. Then a faint, almost inaudible sound that could have been a yes. Or maybe I heard what I wanted to hear. Before I could ask anything else, the call began to break up. The static grew louder, the breathing faded. Emily, don't hang up, don't go, I begged. For a split second, the noise cleared and I heard one last whisper. Not my name, not another plea, just 3 words. They lied to, the rest was swallowed by static. Who lied? I shouted into the phone. The doctors, the police, the man you were afraid of, who lied, Emily, who? But it was useless. The line went dead. I stood in the middle of my silent living room, phone still to my ear, breathing hard like I had just run a long distance. The call log updated. Today, 11:57 p.m. Emily, incoming call, 1 minute 13 seconds. My hands were trembling so violently now that I had to set the phone down before I dropped it. This wasn't just grief. This wasn't just my mind playing tricks. There was a pattern forming, a promise, a warning, a truth struggling to cross over. First, a voicemail. Then a call, next, what? I didn't know how to explain it to anyone. What would I say? My dead sister is calling me. She's saying, help me. She says someone lied. They would send me to a psychiatrist. Tell me it was trauma. Tell me it was my brain trying to process loss through hallucinations. Maybe they'd be right. But when I lay down that night, one thought refused to leave me. If she was reaching out from somewhere, memory, dream, or something beyond, I was the only person who could hear her. And I had promised. If something happens to me, promise you'll answer my calls. So when my phone lit up again the next night, and her name appeared on the screen once more, I didn't hesitate. I answered. Because whatever this was, madness, haunting, or something in between, Emily was still talking to me. And she wasn't done yet. By the 4th day after Emily's death, I stopped pretending this would simply go away. I woke up every morning with the same heavy question pressing against my chest. Was I losing my mind, or was my sister really reaching out to me? People talk about grief like it's only sadness, like crying and missing someone, but grief is much crueler than that. It makes you doubt your own thoughts, your own memories, your own reality. It blurs the line between what is possible and what is convenient to believe. And at that point, believing I was hallucinating felt easier than believing the alternative. Dead people don't call. That was the logic everyone would use. That was the logic I should have used. But logic didn't explain the call logs. Logic didn't explain the voicemail. And logic didn't explain why Emily knew I would answer. I played the last call again and again, listening to every breath, every break in the signal. I noticed things I hadn't before. The background noise wasn't random. It wasn't static alone. It had layers, distance, echo, movement. She hadn't sounded peaceful. She hadn't sounded gone. She had sounded trapped. I tried to ground myself in reality. I needed someone to confirm I wasn't imagining any of this. So I did the most rational thing I could think of. I called my phone company. After navigating a maze of automated menus, a customer service representative finally answered. I explained carefully, choosing my words like stepping stones across thin ice. I want to confirm if my phone has received calls from a specific number in the past few days, I said, and whether those calls could be system errors or delayed signals. She asked for verification details, typed for a while, then said, "Yes, ma'am. Your phone received several incoming calls from that number." My pulse quickened. Were they glitches, old calls coming in late? No, she replied calmly. They were normal incoming calls using an active signal. The word active rang in my ears. That phone shouldn't be active anymore, I said quietly. There was a pause. As far as our system shows, she continued, the device associated with that number is still powered on intermittently. I felt dizzy. Can you see where it's located? I'm sorry, she said. We can't give real-time locations to customers. Only law enforcement can request that. I thanked her and ended the call, my hands shaking. Emily's phone was still on, which meant one of two things. Either someone else had her phone or Emily's death wasn't what they told me it was. I tried to remind myself of what I had seen. Her body, her cold hand, the certainty on the doctor's face, the words she didn't survive. But even that memory felt unreliable now, distorted by everything that came after. What if the hospital was wrong? What if she wasn't dead when she arrived? What if someone wanted her declared dead? The questions multiplied faster than I could stop them. That afternoon, I drove past the place where Emily's accident supposedly happened. The police report said her car had left the road on a quiet stretch outside the city, near an old service road. The place didn't feel like an accident scene. There were no sharp curves, no steep drop, no signs warning drivers to slow down. It was the kind of road you drift off on only if something distracted you or forced you. I sat in my car for a long time, staring through the windshield, imagining Emily driving alone that night. Nervous, distracted, afraid, maybe arguing with someone, maybe thinking about calling me again. Maybe she didn't crash on her own. On my way home, I stopped by her apartment. It still smelled like her. Clean laundry, vanilla candles, her shampoo lingering in the air like a memory that refused to fade. I stood in her bedroom, surrounded by pieces of her life frozen in time. Clothes on the chair, books on the nightstand, her laptop closed, her charger plugged into the wall. Her phone was gone. That detail hit me harder than I expected. The police had said they recovered her belongings, but no one had mentioned her phone. I assumed it was destroyed in the crash. But if her phone was destroyed, how was it calling me? I searched through her drawers, her bags, her jacket pockets, knowing I wouldn't find it, yet feeling compelled to look anyway. Somewhere close to her bed, I found something else. A small notebook. It was tucked between the mattress and the nightstand, hidden but not carefully, like she wanted it nearby without being seen. I flipped through the pages. At first, it was normal stuff, appointments, grocery lists, reminders. Then the handwriting changed. The lines became messier. The words more spaced out, rushed. He keeps asking where I'm going. I didn't tell anyone about the argument. If I leave, he'll get angry. My chest tightened. She never mentioned a relationship to me recently. Not seriously. She'd said someone was complicating things, but I hadn't pushed hard enough. I turned the page. I don't feel safe tonight. I should have told my sister sooner. My throat burned. Tears blurred my vision. She had tried to tell me. The last page had only one sentence, written darker, pressed harder into the paper. If something goes wrong, my phone will prove it. My hands trembled as I lowered the notebook. That sentence changed everything. Emily didn't think she was in an accident. She thought something might happen, and she trusted her phone to be the evidence. That night, I didn't wait for the call. I sat on my couch with all the lights on, notebook open in front of me, phone on the table between my palms. I felt ridiculous, terrified, and determined all at once. Part of me still wanted a therapist to explain this away, to tell me my brain was producing grief-induced hallucinations, to give me something safe and clinical to hold on to. But another part of me, the part that grew up protecting Emily, the part that answered her calls no matter the hour, knew this wasn't random. At 10:41 p.m., my phone vibrated. Emily, I didn't feel the same shock this time, just fear, real, grounded fear. I answered immediately. Emily, I said, I found your notebook. There was silence. Then faintly, that familiar breathing again. You knew something was wrong, I continued. You wrote it down. You said your phone would prove it. What was supposed to happen? Who were you afraid of? Her breathing quickened. I tried to tell myself this was all in my head, I said, my voice breaking. That this is grief, trauma, anything other than what it looks like. But you're calling me, Em, repeatedly. You're saying they lied. A low sound came through the line, almost like a strained attempt to speak. Please, I whispered, help me understand. Are you saying you're not dead? Or are you saying the truth about your death was buried with you? Static crackled softly. Then, clearer than before, she spoke. "They said accident." "Yes," I said. "They did." A short pause. "Not accident." My heart dropped. "I know," I whispered. "I know Em." The connection wavered, but I pushed on. "Who did this to you? Was it someone you knew? Someone who scared you?" A faint noise echoed, like movement, then a brief, sharp sound I couldn't identify. "Emily," I asked urgently. Her voice returned, weaker now. "He has my phone." The words sliced through me. "He," I repeated. "Who is he?" The line crackled violently, like the signal was fighting to survive. "Watching," she breathed. My blood ran cold. "Watching who?" "You." The call cut out. I sat frozen, staring at the phone as if it might explode. Fear or grief? That question no longer mattered, because grief doesn't warn you. Grief doesn't say someone is watching. Grief doesn't keep a phone active after death. Someone was involved. Someone had her phone. Someone knew I was answering. And whoever he was now part of my life too. After that call, I locked my doors. I didn't even remember walking around the apartment, checking each window, pulling the curtains closed, switching on every light. My body moved on instinct, the way it does when the mind hasn't fully caught up with fear yet. He has my phone. He's watching you. Emily's words echoed in my head, overlapping, refusing to separate from my breathing. I sat on the floor in my living room, my back against the couch, phone clutched in my hand like a weapon I had no idea how to use. I waited for another call. It didn't come, and somehow the silence was worse. I forced myself to slow down. Panic wouldn't help Emily. If she was reaching out, however impossible that might be, then she was doing it for a reason. She didn't want me paralyzed. She wanted me to understand. So I went back to the only thing that felt solid, her notebook. I read it from the beginning this time. Slowly, carefully, like every word mattered because now I knew it did. The first few pages were harmless. Grocery lists, reminders, call mom, pay rent, water plants. Normal, everyday proof that Emily had been living a normal life on the surface. Then the entries began to change. Met him again today. He keeps showing up when I don't expect him. Says it's a coincidence. My chest tightened. Emily had never mentioned a him like that before, not a serious relationship, not someone important. If she had someone new in her life, she usually talked about it openly or joked about it to hide that she was nervous. But these notes weren't jokes. He waits after work. He gets angry when I don't answer right away. Says I'm making him worry on purpose. I recognized the pattern immediately and it made me sick. Control disguised as concern. Possessiveness pretending to be affection. I turned another page. I tried to end it. He smiled and said okay. Didn't feel like okay. I closed my eyes, pressing my fingers into my temples. I imagined Emily writing this late at night, sitting on her bed, probably telling herself she was overreacting. That is what people like her do. They doubt their own fear first. The next entry was dated just 3 days before her death. Bad argument tonight. Told him I'd tell my sister everything. He said I wouldn't. My breathing turned shallow, so that was it. That was the secret she wanted to tell me. Emily wasn't just uneasy. She was scared. And the person she was scared of knew I existed, knew she trusted me, knew I was the one person she might turn to. My phone buzzed suddenly. I flinched so hard I almost dropped it. But it wasn't a call, just a notification, an old email syncing. I forced myself to keep reading. The final pages of the notebook were messy, the handwriting hurried. I think he's following me. Checked my phone, certain settings were changed. Don't remember doing it. My stomach twisted. He keeps asking who I talk to, especially her, me. She had been trying to protect me, even while she was afraid herself. The very last entry was short, just 2 lines. If I disappear, don't believe what they say. My phone holds the truth. I closed the notebook slowly. Suddenly, Emily's calls made a terrible kind of sense. Her phone wasn't proof because of some supernatural reason. It was proof because it had something on it. Messages, recordings, location data. Something dangerous enough that someone else kept it. Someone who either didn't realize she could still reach me, or did. I spent the next day retracing Emily's recent life. I logged into her email with a password I'd known since we were teenagers. She never liked changing passwords. She trusted too easily. My heart ached at that familiar detail. Most emails were ordinary, work updates, bills, ads. Then I found a folder labeled drafts. It wasn't supposed to be there. I opened it. Inside were unsent emails addressed to me. The first one was dated 2 weeks before her death. I'm writing this instead of calling because I need to see the words myself before I say them out loud. There's someone in my life who scares me. I don't want to overreact, but I'm not comfortable. If I send this, it makes it real. I'm not ready yet. The second draft was shorter. I should have listened to my instincts. The third made my blood run cold. If you get this, something went wrong. I've saved messages and recordings on my phone. Please don't stop looking. Please don't let him control the story. I pushed my laptop away, sobbing silently. Emily had tried to leave breadcrumbs. She had tried to make sure the truth didn't die with her. And someone had noticed. That evening, I did something I probably shouldn't have, but I didn't feel like I had a choice. I went to the police station. I asked to speak to Officer Daniels again. I brought the notebook. I told him about the calls. I showed him the call logs, the voicemails, the drafts. He listened quietly, his expression carefully neutral. When I finished, he leaned back and sighed. "I'm very sorry," he said gently, "but what you're describing sounds like a trauma response. Hallucinations and auditory phenomena are not uncommon after sudden loss." "She wrote this before she died," I insisted, pushing the notebook toward him. "She was scared. She was being followed. She told me her phone would prove it." He scanned the pages, his jaw tightening slightly. "This is concerning," he admitted. "But without the phone itself, it's not evidence." "And the calls," I pressed. "You're saying those are all in my head?" He hesitated, and that hesitation hurt worse than outright denial. "We can have a technician examine your phone," he said, "but I need you to prepare yourself for the possibility that this is your mind trying to make sense of something senseless." I left feeling smaller than when I arrived. Grief, fear, madness, they all start to feel interchangeable when no one believes you. That night, I sat on my bed with the notebook open and whispered into the empty room, "I'm trying, Em. I swear I am." My phone rang. I didn't jump this time. I answered. "Emily," I said, "they don't believe me, but I found your messages. I know about him now." Her breathing came through the line, faint but steady. "I need you to tell me who he is," I said. "His name." "Anything. Where did you meet him?" The signal wavered. "Work," she whispered. "At work," I repeated. "A coworker." A pause, then not coworker. "Client, boss, someone who had access to you," I asked. The line crackled. "I tried to block him," she said. "Phone helped." My mind raced. "Did you record him, save messages? Is that why he took your phone?" "Yes." My heart slammed painfully against my ribs. "I'll get it back," I said without thinking. "I don't know how yet, but I will. I need you to keep calling me. I need you to guide me." Her breathing grew weaker. "Hurry," she whispered. Before I could say anything else, the connection broke. The screen went dark. I stared at it, shaking. Emily wasn't haunting me for comfort. She wasn't clinging to memory. She was fighting. And wherever she was, between life and death, between truth and silence, she was running out of time. And now that I knew someone else was involved, someone real and dangerous, I realized something else too. Emily wasn't the only one in danger anymore, because someone had her phone. Someone was watching. And now they knew I knew. I woke up the next morning with a certainty that scared me more than any nightmare. This wasn't just about grief anymore. It wasn't just about me missing Emily so much that I heard her voice in the cracks of silence. Someone had hurt her. Someone had taken her phone. And somehow, she was using the very thing he stole to reach me. I couldn't fix what happened to her. I couldn't go back and answer the calls she never got to make. But I could do one thing. I could follow the trail she left behind. I started with the only piece of physical reality I had, my own phone. If Emily's calls were real, then they were passing through a network, which meant somewhere there were records, data, signals, something. I went to the only person I trusted enough to help me without judgment. Alex. Alex had been my friend since college, a quiet, observant guy who worked in IT and preferred computers to people. He was one of the few who had met Emily more than once, who knew how close we were. He opened the door with sleepy eyes and messy hair, clearly not expecting anyone at 8 a.m. "You look like you haven't slept in a week," he said. I haven't, I replied. Can I come in? He stepped aside immediately. That bad, huh? We sat at his dining table. I placed my phone down between us like I was putting evidence on a detective's desk. I need you to look at something, I said. He listened as I told him everything, the calls, the voicemail, the breathing, the fragments of Emily's voice. I told him about the notebook, the drafts, the man she'd been afraid of. I expected him to stop me halfway to tell me this was a mental break, that I needed therapy, not tech support. He didn't. He just nodded slowly, eyes narrowed in concentration. You think someone else is using her phone? Yes, I said. But then why does it sound like her? Why is she telling me he has it? Why is she warning me? He glanced at my phone. Can I? I slid it toward him. He connected it to his laptop and began extracting logs. Call history, network data, metadata from the voicemail. While he worked, I paced the room. Finally, he spoke. Okay, he said. First thing, the calls are definitely real. They're not artifacts or corrupted files. They came through the network normally. My heart thudded. From her number? I asked. He nodded. Yes. From Emily's number, routed like any regular call. Can you see where they came from? I pressed. Not exact GPS, he said. I'm not a carrier. But I can see which cell towers handled them. Give me a second. He typed faster. I held my breath. Here, he said finally, turning the laptop toward me. On the screen, there was a map with a small highlighted radius. The last 3 calls, he explained, all came from roughly the same area. Outskirts of the city, industrial zone. There's not much out there, some old warehouses, storage units, a scrapyard. My stomach twisted. Were any of those near where her car was found? He dragged the map slightly, comparing markers. Same side of town, he said slowly, but not the same spot. The crash site was here, the call signals here. It was a few miles apart, close enough to be connected, far enough to mean someone moved. So whoever has her phone is there, I asked. Either that or the phone is, he replied. Could be in a building, could be in a vehicle, could be someone walking around that zone. I stared at the glowing dot on the map. That place could answer everything, or get me killed. Alex must have seen the way I was looking at it because he said, before you get any heroic ideas, you're not going there alone. I have to go, I said. The police aren't taking this seriously. All they see is a grieving sister. They didn't know Emily the way I did. They didn't hear her say, not accident. I'm not saying don't go, he replied. I'm saying I'm going with you. And we're not going without telling someone official. I hesitated. He leaned forward. If someone killed her, they might want to keep you quiet too, especially if they know she's contacting you. The thought made my skin crawl. I nodded slowly. Okay, we don't do this stupidly. Good, he said. Now, you mentioned she worked at an office, right? Where was that? I told him the name of the company, a small creative agency downtown. Start there, he suggested. If there was a man who scared her, chances are someone at work noticed something. People like that leave marks everywhere they go. He was right, so that's where I went next. Emily's office looked painfully ordinary from the outside. Glass doors, potted plants, people holding coffee cups and rushing to meetings. The normalcy of it made me angry. How could life keep going inside when she was gone? At the reception desk, a young woman glanced up, then froze when she recognized me. I had met her once when I came to pick Emily up after a late shift. Oh, she said softly, you're her sister. My throat tightened. Yeah, I'm so sorry, she said, her eyes filled with sympathy that felt both kind and unbearable. We all loved Emily. She didn't deserve what happened. I swallowed hard. Did anyone deserve it? She shook her head. Of course not. I leaned closer. Can I ask you something, off the record? She hesitated, then nodded. Did Emily seem scared of anyone here? I asked. Or connected to someone she didn't talk about? Someone who made her uncomfortable? The receptionist's gaze flicked to the side just for a second before coming back. That was all I needed. Who? I asked. Her voice dropped. We're not supposed to discuss internal issues with family, but there was a client. What kind of client? Big one, she replied. Paid well, came in often, too often. His name is Michael Lane. A chill slid down my spine. And he had some kind of relationship with Emily? She looked nervous, like saying too much might cost her something. He took an interest in her, sent her late-night emails, asked to meet outside office hours. She tried to be polite because he was important to the company, but you could tell she wasn't comfortable. "Did she ever report it?" I asked. "She talked to our manager," the receptionist said, "but he told her to manage it professionally since the client was valuable." Of course he did. My hands curled into fists. "Last week before," she continued carefully, "they argued in one of the meeting rooms. I didn't hear everything, but I heard him say, 'You think you can just cut me off?' And she said, 'I'm not your anything. I don't owe you my time.'" My heart hammered. That sounded exactly like the kind of man who would get angry when a woman tried to leave. "What does he look like?" I asked. "Tall, mid-40s, dark hair, expensive suit," she said. "Charming when he wants to be, scary when he doesn't get what he wants." "Do you have his number on file?" I asked. She hesitated again. "I'm not allowed to share that." I was about to argue when my phone buzzed. My blood turned to ice before I even looked at the screen because I knew. I turned it over. "Emily." The receptionist saw the name. Her eyes widened. "Is that—" "Yes," I whispered. The phone kept ringing. I answered. "Emily," I breathed. There was breathing again, heavy, strained. "Where are you?" I asked. "Is he there? Is it Michael?" The receptionist leaned closer, trying to hear. I switched to speaker. Static fuzzed the edges of her voice, but underneath it we both heard it clearly, a whisper, like air pushed through cracked glass. "Don't trust him." "Who?" I asked, panic lacing my words. "Michael Daniels." "Who?" She didn't answer the question. Instead, she said something that made my veins freeze. "He knows you're here." The call dropped. The receptionist slapped a hand over her mouth. "You heard that too, right?" I asked desperately. "Please tell me you heard that." She nodded, eyes huge. "I heard her, I swear I did." Relief and terror mixed inside me like poison. I wasn't imagining it. It wasn't just in my head. Someone else had heard Emily's broken, impossible voice. And she wasn't warning me about the past anymore. She was warning me about the present. When I got back to Alex's place, I told him everything. The client, the argument, the phone call at the office, the shared witness. He pulled the map back up and zoomed in on the industrial zone. "I did some digging while you were gone," he said. "Guess who owns a storage unit out here?" My heart thudded. "Who?" He turned the laptop toward me. There it was, in black and white. Lane Industrial Solutions contact, Michael Lane. For a moment the world went quiet. No traffic, no humming appliances, no sound at all. Just my sister's voice in my memory. "He has my phone. Hurry." "We need to go to the police with this," Alex said. "Now, this is enough to make them look again." "Yes," I said. "We do." But as I stared at the highlighted area on the map, one thought refused to leave me. If Emily's phone was there, what else was? And why did I feel like, whatever we found in that place, it wouldn't just be data or evidence, but the last missing piece of the truth my sister died trying to show me? Whatever waited in that warehouse was dangerous. To her. To me. But I also knew one thing with absolute, terrible certainty. I wasn't stopping now. Because Emily hadn't called me just to say goodbye. She called so I could finish what she started. And tomorrow, we were going to the place where her signal kept coming from. To the exact spot her voice could still reach. The next morning didn't feel like morning. It felt like the pause between a question and an answer. I hadn't slept properly in days, but my mind felt sharp. Too sharp. Like everything around me had narrowed down to just a few things. Emily, her notebook, the map, Michael Lane, the industrial zone, and the calls, always the calls. Alex picked me up just after 9. He had dark circles under his eyes too, but he looked focused. "You ready?" he asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm going anyway." "Good," he replied. "That's the correct level of fear." We drove straight to the police station. This time, when we asked to see Officer Daniels, we weren't empty-handed. We had names, locations, patterns, and someone else, not just me, had heard Emily's voice. Daniels met us in a small interview room. He looked tired but curious, like he'd expected me to come back, just not this soon. "You said you had more," he said. "Show me." We put everything on the table, literally and figuratively. The notebook, the drafts, the receptionist's statement about Michael Lane. The fact that he owned a storage facility in the same zone where Emily's phone's signal kept pinging. Alex's analysis of the cell data. I watched his expression change, slowly, as he listened. Skepticism gave way to concern. Concern turned into something harder, more professional. "This client," he said, tapping the name on the paper, "Michael Lane, you're sure he had contact with your sister?" "He didn't just have contact," I said. "He fixated on her. She tried to cut him off. He didn't like it." Daniels nodded slowly. "And the calls?" he asked. "You said someone else heard one." "The receptionist," I said. "She heard Emily's voice on speaker. She heard her say, 'Don't trust him.' She heard her say, 'He knows you're here.'" He sat back, exhaling. "Okay," he said finally. "This is unusual, to put it mildly. But the storage unit connection and the workplace history, those are real leads. That's enough to check him out." "Check him out how?" I asked. "By doing what we should have done earlier," he replied. "Treating this as more than an accident." Within an hour, paperwork was in motion. Daniels called for a search team. He didn't mention ghosts or impossible calls in his report. On paper, it was about a suspicious client with a potential history of harassment and a property close to unexplained signal activity. But when he looked at me, I knew he was thinking about her voice too. "Here's how this is going to work," he said as we stood near the station entrance. "We'll go to the site. You and your friend stay in the car unless I say otherwise. No wandering off. No hero moves. Understood?" "Understood," I said. I meant it. At least, I meant to mean it. The industrial zone looked exactly like you'd expect. Rows of metal buildings, empty lots, rusted fences, old signs no one had bothered to replace. It felt like the kind of place where things went to be forgotten. The police convoy stopped near a cluster of storage units with a faded sign that read, "Lane Industrial Storage." My skin prickled. "This is it," Alex murmured beside me. We sat in his car, a short distance back, watching as Daniels and two other officers approached the main office door. They knocked. No answer. One officer circled around, checking the sides and back. "Do you think he's here?" I whispered. "I think if he's smart," Alex said. "He's not." I watched Daniels on the phone, likely coordinating with someone for access. The seconds stretched. Then my phone lit up. I didn't need to look to know what name I would see. But I did anyway. "Emily." My chest tightened so hard it hurt. Alex saw it. "You don't have to." "Yes," I said. "I do," I answered. "Emily," I whispered. There was no greeting, no breathing this time, just a faint, persistent sound. A distant hum, a low whine, something mechanical. "Where are you?" I asked. "We're here, at the storage units. Is this where he took you?" No answer. The sound continued. A strange echo, like we were listening through layers of walls. "Can you give me something?" I begged. "Anything, a number, a word, a sign." There was a soft click, like something metal moving. Then I heard it. A slow, irregular dripping. Water. My heart raced. I looked up at the row of units in front of us. They all looked identical, metal doors, little padlocks, numbers painted above. But one of them, as I stared, my eyes caught a tiny detail I hadn't noticed before. A thin, dark line running from under one of the doors. Like oil. Or something else. My pulse pounded in my ears. "Alex," I said, still holding the phone, my voice shaking. "Listen." I held the phone close to his ear. He frowned. "Dripping," he said. "Yes." He stared at the units. Then his eyes widened. "There." We both saw it now. Unit 17. It had a faint stain near the bottom edge, and underneath it the ground was slightly darker. Damp. I didn't think. I opened the car door. "Wait." Alex grabbed for my arm, but I slipped free. "Just stay here," I said. "Tell them, look, just tell them it's that one. I need to get closer. She called me." He cursed under his breath. "You're going to get me arrested with you." But he got out too. We walked as fast as we could without drawing too much attention, heading straight for Daniels. He saw us coming and immediately frowned. "I thought I told you to stay back." "It's that one," I said, pointing at Unit 17. My voice shook, but I didn't back down. "Check that one first." He followed my gaze, then looked back at me. "Why?" he asked. "Because she's calling me from there," I said. "Right now." His jaw tightened, but he didn't dismiss me, not this time. He signaled to the other officers. "Check 17." They moved, one of them bringing bolt cutters. The lock snapped with a harsh metallic crunch that made my stomach twist. The officer rolled the door up. The smell hit first. Sharp. Chemical. Rotting. "Stay back," Daniels snapped, and this time I obeyed. The officers stepped inside, flashlights cutting through the dimness. I heard one of them curse softly. "What is it?" I choked out. Daniels didn't answer right away. He stepped further in, then motioned for the others to follow protocol. I watched his shoulders tense, watched the way his posture changed when he saw something that altered the entire situation. He came back out a minute later, his face set. "There's evidence in there," he said carefully. "A lot of it." My voice trembled. "Of Emily," he held my gaze. "We found her phone." My knees almost buckled. "And something else," he added grimly. "Restraints, plastic sheeting, stains consistent with blood. Multiple, not just one." I swallowed bile. "Was she—" I couldn't finish the sentence. He shook his head. "We won't jump to conclusions about remains or lack of them until forensics is done. But whatever this place was, it wasn't storage. It was preparation and cleanup." I felt sick. My phone was still pressed to my ear. The call was still open. The dripping sound continued, quieter now, but there. "If you have her phone," I whispered, "then why is the call still coming through?" Daniels stared at it, frowning. "End it," he said. I hesitated. "End it," he repeated gently. "We've found what she wanted us to find." With hands that didn't feel like mine, I slowly pulled the phone away from my ear and looked at the screen. "Call in progress. Emily, 0427." I ended the call. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, unexpectedly, my phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't her name. It was a notification. New audio file received. Confused, I opened it. The file name was a timestamp. Dated the night she died. A saved recording. I pressed play. Emily's voice filled the air, not broken, not strained, alive. "If something happens to me," she was saying, her tone hushed but clear, "then this will be my proof. He thinks I'm scared into silence. He doesn't know I started recording our talks." Another voice came in. Male, smooth, controlled, Michael Lane. "You're being dramatic, Emily," he said. "You know I care about you. I just don't like being ignored." "You showed up at my home," she said. "At my office, you keep calling, you monitor when I'm online. That's not caring, that's control." A pause. Then his tone changed, still soft, but with something colder underneath. "You're going to marry someone one day," he said. "Would you want him to just give up when you got scared? Or would you want him to fight for you?" "This isn't love," she replied. I heard the tremor in her voice. "This is obsession. You'll regret talking to me like that," he said. "You think your sister will save you? You think anyone believes you? They'll call me concerned. They'll call you fragile, emotional. You know how this goes." Silence. Then Emily said, "If anything happens to me, they'll have this." The recording glitched slightly as if it had been cut or transferred in a rush. Then a final line whispered from her. "I'm sending this to my sister if I get the chance." The file ended. I realized I was crying silently, tears spilling down my face without permission. "She knew," I said hoarsely. "She knew he'd try something." Daniel's face was hard now, professional, focused. "We have enough to bring him in," he said. "And this time no one is calling it an accident." As he gave orders, officers moved faster, taping, marking, photographing. The area transformed from empty storage site to crime scene in minutes. Alex put a hand on my shoulder. "She did it," he murmured. "Even after she made sure the truth got through." I stared at my phone. The call log showed the last incoming call. And now, one more entry, an auto-received file sent from Emily's number. But her physical phone was inside the unit. Powered off, identified, bagged. So whatever connection had been bridging that impossible distance was complete. I didn't expect another call after that. She had given me everything she could. The clues, the warnings, the proof. And now, standing just meters away from the place where she had been hurt, surrounded by men who finally believed me, I realized something else. She hadn't been calling for herself, not just for justice, not just for her name. She had been calling to keep me away, to warn me he was watching, to push me toward help instead of toward him, to guide me, step by step, toward the truth without letting me walk straight into his hands. Her last fight wasn't for her life. It was for my safety. As we watched the crime scene tape go up, my phone stayed silent. No more ringing, no more voicemails, no more impossible signals. For the first time since she died, an ache spread through me that wasn't sharp and frantic, but slow, deep, and final. It felt like a goodbye, not abandonment, a release. Because Emily had done what she needed to do. Now it was our turn. To testify, to fight, to make sure Michael Lane never hurt anyone again. And somewhere in whatever peace she had finally earned, I hoped she knew one thing. I answered every call, just like I promised. The calls never came again. Not that night. Not the next day. Not ever. After the storage unit was sealed and the evidence cataloged, police escorted Alex and me back to the station. My phone stayed silent in my hand the entire ride, the screen dark, ordinary, finally just a device again. I didn't know whether to feel relief or grief. Maybe both. In the days that followed, everything moved quickly and painfully at the same time. Michael Lane was arrested less than 48 hours later at his home. When police searched his computer and personal devices, they found what Emily had tried to warn me about: messages he never deleted, logs he thought were protected, backup files he forgot existed, screenshots of her online activity, email drafts never sent, recordings copied from her phone before he took it for himself. A careful man, but not careful enough. The official cause of Emily's death was amended after forensic review. The crash was no longer ruled a simple accident. It was classified as suspicious circumstances connected to an ongoing criminal investigation. Not justice yet, but truth. Michael didn't confess immediately. Men like him rarely do. They hide behind lawyers and silence, behind polite smiles and victim narratives. But facts are cruel to liars. Evidence doesn't get tired. It doesn't doubt itself. What Emily left behind spoke louder than anything he said. When the trial finally began, nearly a year later, I sat in the front row of the courtroom with our parents. I didn't look at Michael when he was brought in. I didn't need to. I had already heard his real voice. I testified on the third day. My hands shook as I took the stand, but my voice didn't. I talked about the phone calls, the notebook, the voicemail, the final recording. I talked about Emily the way she truly was, not a victim frozen in time, but a living, breathing woman who sensed danger and tried to escape it. The defense tried to frame me as unstable, grief-stricken, suggestible. They asked if I had sought mental health support after my sister's death. Yes, I answered, and my therapist confirmed what I already knew. And what was that? The lawyer pressed. I met his eyes. That being traumatized doesn't make someone dishonest. It makes them persistent. The judge allowed the recordings into evidence. The room went quiet as Emily's voice filled the space once again, clear, steady, afraid, brave. People cried. Even some of the jurors wiped their eyes. Michael stared straight ahead, unmoving. He didn't flinch when his own words played back to him. He didn't look at me once. He didn't have to. 2 weeks later, the verdict came back. Guilty on all major charges. Michael Lane was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. When the judge read the sentence, Michael finally reacted. His jaw clenched, his shoulders tensed, control lost. That was his real punishment. There was no sudden peace after that, no dramatic sense of closure. Healing doesn't arrive like a final chapter neatly tied off. It comes slowly, quietly, in moments you don't expect. The first time I cried was not in the courtroom, or the hospital, or at her funeral. It was months later, when I realized something small and terrible. I no longer checked my phone every time it vibrated. For a long time, part of me hoped, irrationally, unfairly, that her name might light up the screen again. That maybe she'd call just one more time, just to say she was okay now. But she didn't, and eventually I understood why. She didn't stay because she wanted to haunt me. She stayed because she had something unfinished. Something important. Once it was done, she let go. Emily didn't want me tied to the moment of her death. She wanted me to live beyond it. Some nights I still dream of her. She's always calm in those dreams, smiling the way she used to when she knew something I didn't. She never speaks. She doesn't have to. Her message was already delivered. I kept her notebook. I keep it in my nightstand now, not because it scares me, but because it reminds me of her strength, of how even in fear she was thinking ahead, planning, protecting. Sometimes I volunteer with a local organization that helps women document harassment and abuse safely. I don't tell them Emily's full story unless they ask. But when they do, I say this. She trusted that the truth matters, even if it's heard too late, even if it only reaches one person. I don't believe Emily came back from the dead. Not in the way ghost stories promise. I believe something else. I believe trauma leaves echoes. I believe technology carries more than data. I believe love doesn't disappear just because the body does. And I believe some promises are stronger than death. My phone has stayed quiet for a long time now. No missed calls, no strange voicemails, no impossible signals. But every once in a while, when the house is still and the world feels heavy, I think I hear her laughing somewhere deep inside my memory. That's when I remember. Some voices don't leave because they're unfinished. They leave because they've finally been heard. And Emily's voice, it wasn't calling me to stay trapped in the past. It was calling me forward. And I answered. If you've reached this point in the story, thank you for staying. This wasn't just a mystery. It wasn't just a crime. And it wasn't meant to scare you. It was a story about listening. Sometimes, the people we love try to tell us something difficult in small, careful ways. Sometimes fear sounds like hesitation. Sometimes danger hides behind charm. And sometimes, the truth doesn't disappear just because someone tries to silence it. Emily's story is a reminder that control is not love, and persistence is not romance. If something feels wrong in a relationship, it usually is. And trusting your instincts can save lives. If this story moved you, please remember this. You never have to face fear alone. There are people who will listen. There are ways to document, to speak, and to get help safely. And if you are someone who did listen tonight, who paid attention, who felt the weight of this story, then you've already honored the reason it was told. Before you go, take a moment to support the channel. If this story touched you, like the video so it can reach others who might need to hear it. Share it with someone who believes stories matter. And subscribe to the channel so we can continue giving voice to stories that refuse to stay silent. New true crime and emotional mystery stories are uploaded regularly. This is Shadow Voice. And here, silence never tells the whole truth.